I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy day. I know, especially this time of year, there's a lot of stuff going on, and spending a little bit of time with us. I really appreciate that. We get a lot of requests for people that have ideas or inventions or products that they've come up with. And the big question we get is how do we take those things and go to market? And it's a tough question. And I was so lucky to come across our guest today, Mark Toda. He is a commercialization expert. He spent 20 years at Penn State. We just had a nice conversation about that. And he's with the University of Louisville now, and he is an expert in engineering and product commercialization. And so I asked Mark to come on and kind of share us how we would, take a product to market from start to finish. I know there's a lot more than we can pack into our short time today, but we'll do the best we can. And again, you can always reach out to Mark as after this too. We'll share his information as well as the slides and the recording. And then as we go along, if you have any questions or comments for Mark, just put it in the chat, and I'll share those with Mark, and we'll answer as many questions as you have. So here is your opportunity to really pick Mark's brain on the product or service or idea that you have that you want to take to market. So Mark, why don't you unmute for us, and let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and allow you to share your screen, and we'll just dive right in, and I'll let you share a little bit more about yourself with the guests, with everybody else that's joining us today. There we go.
Okay, are you seeing the presentation there, David?
Perfect.
Okay, good, wonderful. Well, hello everyone on the line, and thank you very much for joining today. My name again is Mark Toda, and I work currently at the University of Louisville. I've been at the University of Louisville for about 7.5 years now, and I work for the Kentucky Pollution Prevention Center. So I'm doing outreach to business and industry here in Kentucky, primarily in the environmental engineering area. Do a lot of work with energy management and energy efficiency. But prior to that, I worked at Penn State University for 25 years, and there did some work with energy and energy management, also with business and industry throughout the state of Pennsylvania. But predominantly what I did was work in the area of new product development. And so I worked with entrepreneurs, inventors and entrepreneurs, and I also worked with manufacturers as well, helping them to commercialize new products and evaluate and commercialize new products. Prior to that, I was in development engineering at IBM in New York State for about almost 9 years there. So that's a little bit about my background. So I've worked in new product development in a variety of areas, but specifically today, what I want to talk about is product development for entrepreneurs. The process for developing and commercializing new products is the same process, whether you're a big manufacturer or if you're just an entrepreneur with a concept. Getting that product to market, you're going to follow a similar process. Obviously, things are going to be different, and the scale may be different, but a lot of the same principles are going to be true for entrepreneurs as they are for big manufacturers. The other thing I'll say at the onset is that I've heard of thousands of ideas for new products over the years, and I don't think I've ever heard of a bad idea. I don't think people think of bad ideas. They think of good ideas. That's why they come to mind, because they are a good idea. Now, whether that idea is marketable or not, and how do we get it to market, and at what price point and everything, that's a whole nother question. But people normally think of good ideas. And so I'm sure folks that are on the line here, if they have an idea for a new product, I'm sure it's a good idea as well. But I actually have, I'm available to do private consulting as well. I have a business name, Engineering and Academic Services. So, and I'll share my contact information with you all at the end of the presentation today. So you'll have that, and please feel free to contact me anytime, and I will be glad to be of assistance in any way that I can. So let me see here if I can go down to the next, oh, here, the next slide. There we go. Okay, so this is commercializing your idea, product development for entrepreneurs. And I have in red there new product examples. So I'm going to give you some examples of some new products, just to break up the slides, so we're not looking at a whole bunch of text slides for the next 45 minutes or whatever. But these are the areas that I want to cover, not in depth because I don't have enough time, but I want to at least cover them. I want to talk about success factors. First of all, how are we? What are the factors that are going to facilitate success with new products, and capturing your idea? It's a really key thing there. I want to talk primarily about what I would call a commercialization process. What's the process, as David indicated before, from the time you have an idea until it actually gets launched on the marketplace? What does that process look like? And next, what's in it for you? That's a question I want to talk about, and it's sort of a question I want to raise for you all on the line. What's in this for you? It's a good question to be asking yourself. I want to take a little bit of time to talk about protecting your idea. How do you, now that you've got a good idea, how do you protect that moving forward? And how can you actually move forward while at the same time having your idea protected? So I want to talk, I'm sorry, I got commercialization process in there twice, but I want to talk a little bit about market research, why that's important, and then touch on pricing your product too. So these are some of the basic areas that I'd like to touch on today, if I could here. So before I jump in, there's some references which are helpful. These are references that I've used over the years. Some of these are not new references. They've been around for a long time. But Winning at New Products is a really great book by Robert Cooper. I actually attended a seminar that he put on, a couple seminars actually that he put on. He's from McMaster University in Ontario, Canada, and it's an excellent book. There's another book which is kind of interesting. So What? Who Cares? Why You? The Inventors Commercialization Toolkit. It's a really great textbook, 8.5 by 11 book, and it's very useful. There is actually a complete idiot's guide to product development, and that book actually is pretty useful as well. So I've been through that. And lastly, there is a book called Patent It Yourself. You can patent things yourself. You don't actually need an attorney to do patenting, but it is recommended. I recommend it because that's the attorney's profession, and it's a good reason why we get attorneys to do things, to make sure that things are covered correctly. So, but the book itself is very useful in looking at the patenting process, because obviously that's one way that we can protect our idea moving forward. So this is the basic, I'm not going to get into detail right now here on this slide. We'll talk more a little bit later on. This is the basic commercialization process as I see it. And that I've been working this with entrepreneurs and small manufacturers over the years. And the first step is really the idea, is generating the idea. Excuse me. The next step is a preliminary investigation where we're sort of scoping out the idea. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that means. And then we move into a detailed investigation stage. And this is where we're actually going to be building the business plan, which the small business development centers are very key resource in helping to develop that business plan. This is where we're looking at, exact product costs, and we're looking at, where we're going to get capital from, and how we're going to market the product. And, the whole business planning piece of it is what we'll get into there. And this is typically before we even start getting into manufacturing. because the next stage is development, and development is where we're actually, we have finalized designs for the product. We're engaging with manufacturers and putting together manufacturing process, getting the manufacturing process set up, building tools and dies if we need those, ordering supplies, getting things ready. And so the development phase, we're going to actually, that's where we actually start manufacturing product in that development stage. So it's preparing for manufacturing and beginning to manufacture the product. That to me is what development is. Development is taking the idea from a concept to now it's actually a reality, and we're able to manufacture that on a quantity basis. Then we have to prepare for launch, which primarily is going to be developing marketing communications and doing websites and whatever we need to support the launch of the product, making sure that we have business systems set up so that we can accept payment for product and whatever. And then finally, we're going to launch the product at the end. And there's a lot of work to do in each one of these stages, but it is helpful to be able to at least have a process, at least have a process to walk through. And the book that I referenced, Winning at New Products, outlines this sort of a process, and they call this a stage gate process. Each circle here is a stage of the commercialization process. And at the end of each stage, you make a decision whether you want to move forward or not. And so they call that a gate. So in other words, we have a great idea for a new product, and we do a little preliminary investigation, and we say, wow, this is not going to work from a business perspective. And so we decide, okay, we're going to quit right here. Before we spend a lot more time and money, we're going to quit here. Or we might come out of a preliminary investigation and say, yeah, this is looking pretty good. Let's go to the next stage. And the next stage is again, the detailed investigation. And so we'll spend more time and effort building a detailed business plan for the product. And then we'll take another look at the end of that detailed investigation. Do I want to move forward with that or not again? And so again, it's a decision point, because when I go into development, now I'm going to start spending a lot of money because I have to build manufacturing capacity and maybe a lot of other things I have to do there. So I'm going to be spending more time and more money moving forward. And so that's why this stage gate sort of approach is very useful, because in any stage, if I'm in the detailed investigation stage, the only thing I have to decide is, do I want to move to the next stage? I don't have to make all the decisions about launching the product, at that point in time. I'm certainly going to be thinking about it then, but the only decision I need to make is, do I want to go to the next stage, which is development, or not? And so, so that's the nice thing about the stage gate process. It sort of helps to compartmentalize the process, because as an entrepreneur with an idea in the beginning, this whole process can seem very daunting and overwhelming. And but if we can break it down into pieces, it really helps an awful lot. So before we start talking about success, let's talk about failure. So this is the causes of new product failures. And this data, again, is a little bit old. I apologize. It's probably from the 1990s, but I would imagine that it's not too untrue even today. The number one cause of new product failures is inadequate market analysis. That's the most important thing. Again, an area that the SBDCs can be of tremendous support in is doing market analysis. And but this is critical. 45% of new product failures are for that reason. I heard a statistic one time that, for every 70 ideas for new products, roughly 10 or 11 of those will actually make it to market, and 3 or 4 of them will actually be truly successful products. And so what we're talking about, the odds are against success from that perspective. So it's not an easy task to bring a product from idea to market. but it is definitely possible, and a lot of people have been very successful at it. The next is product problems or defects. If we have product problems or defects, that's going to cause failure in the business world. But it's like half of what inadequate market analysis is. So the inadequate market analysis is the bigger effect here. Lack of effective marketing is a problem. Skipping down to competitive strength, who's your competition? And we're going to talk about that here in a few minutes. And what's the competition doing, and how do you stack up with the competition? But again, that's only 17% of the problem for failure. Yeah, so just the point of this slide is really one of the things that's so important is we need to do market analysis up front. And I'm going to talk more, going back to this slide, I'm going to be talking more about the upfront part of this process, these first 3 stages, because these are so critical. If we can get this preliminary investigation correct and the detailed investigation, if we can come up with a really solid business plan that really makes sense, then our chances of success have gone up astronomically. So that's why this is so critically important in the process here. We'll spend most of our time talking in those first 3 stages there. Okay, but let's talk about success, because success is definitely possible here, and we want success. Our society is craving for new products. We always want new products. I mean, before you buy the next iPhone, right? I have an iPhone 13. Well, before you know it, iPhone 14 is out. We are a society that loves new products, and so it's sometimes a blessing and sometimes it's a curse. But new products are important to us as a country. The number one success factor that I've read about and it makes sense to me is a unique and superior product. Your product has to be unique and superior in some way. Otherwise, why would anybody buy it? So that's something that's really important, that you crystallize in your mind what is unique and superior about the product that you have. And Bob Cooper in his book talks about that aspect there. A strong market orientation is a critical success factor, that you understand the marketplace that you're going to be playing in. Whether you're developing equipment or a household utensil, whatever it might be, whatever market you're in, if you have a strong orientation to that market, if a strong understanding of that market, what the needs and wants are of that market, you're really going to be positioning yourself for success. A well thought out process for commercialization, like the one I just showed, is really good success factor, because if you get in the middle of this and you don't really have a good process, you sort of lose the forest for the trees, and it can become difficult. More upfront homework. The more homework that you can do upfront, that's the due diligence, that's the hard work of this. But the more that can be done upfront, that increases your chances of success. Sharp and early product definition. The sooner in this whole process that I sort of laid out there, the sooner you can really get a clearly defined product that matches the market need, and you can really crystallize that in your mind and put together concept drawings or whatever of what this is going to look like. The sooner you can do that, the better. Putting together a good team is critical, because none of us can do any of this by ourselves. We have to have a good team. I'm an engineer, so I have a handle on design and how to manufacture things, but I'm not as strong on the business side of things, or necessarily on the marketing side of things. And so I may need some help there. I may need a patent attorney. I might need an accountant. So we have to put together a strong team there. And so my encouragement is to utilize available resources that are out there. And lastly, make good decisions. If we have products that are really going to be successful, let's move those ones forward. And the sooner that we can we can make a decision that, look, this product is just not going to make it. It's going to be a loser. We want to kill those loser ideas as quickly as possible because we don't want to spend time and resources on products that aren't going to work. And quality of execution is important. As we're doing this upfront homework, we want to do it in a quality way. You know, we want to have good quality because, you know, you might think, well, I don't have time to do all that research. Well, it's actually going to save you time in the long run if you spend the time to do high quality research up front. That's really important. And you know, a lot of these things I can talk more about, but I just kind of want to give you a flavor for some of these things moving forward. So I'm gonna intersperse some examples of actual products that I worked on. They're pretty much all back in Pennsylvania because I said here in Kentucky I've been working more in the environmental engineering area. But this is a gentleman, Ken Frederick, from in the center of Pennsylvania, and he has developed the ab and arm wheel. And you will say, well, I've seen ab wheels before. Well, the difference with this one is it's not just a straight bar here. It bends up in 90 degrees. And you can see that Ken is in this position here. He can grab those side arms like that, and it actually puts his arm and his shoulders in a different posture when he's actually doing the ab and arm wheel. And rather than, I mean, you can put your hands on the horizontal section there, but when you do that, it's a totally different thing on your arms, as you can imagine. The other thing in the picture on the right that's nice about this, because it's 90 degrees, when you roll out with it, you can actually turn those horns down, and it actually will stop it. So you can stop your motion with this, and you won't go too far like he did in this upper picture. Ken is a very in shape person, that's for sure. But this is a new product. He had this idea for this, and actually he's been marketing it. I won't do it now to save time, but you can actually Google this and see videos of this actually in action. And so this is a new product. We actually did some design work. It was actually kind of interesting to try to figure out how do we, because that 90-degree bend there is all encased with like a rubber cushiony material. So how do we build that? And so there was actually a bit of design work, although it seemed very simple. There was a bit of design work to figure out how do we design that so that it can be manufactured and assembled. And so that took a little bit of thought to do that. But just a new product. And so this is a definition that I actually put this definition together. But it's what my concept of successful entrepreneurship is matching ideas with customer needs and wants. That's the most important thing. We have the ideas that we have to match it with what our potential customers actually need and what they want. And no sense in us making stuff that they don't need or want. That's the first step. And then the next step is creating a viable business opportunity with that idea. We want to be creative in generating ideas. We need to objectively determine the needs and wants of the customers. And we can't just say, oh yeah, my idea is the next best thing since sliced bread. There has to be some objectivity to that. And that's where market research comes in. And we need to have some good data there to support our thoughts there. Understand and quantify the real business opportunity. We need to be able to properly protect the idea. And we're going to talk about that. But at the same time, we can't get hung up in that, because there are a lot of ideas that people have that never actually make it to market, because people are afraid if they talk about it, or if it gets out, somebody's going to steal their idea. Well, that's very possible that the idea could be stolen, but that getting hung up on that is what prevents a lot of people from actually commercializing an idea. And that's the whole reason why the U.S. Patent Trademark Office was set up, and the whole patenting process was set up, because if the government could get people to actually patent the idea, then they would feel a little bit more comfortable about sharing that idea with other people. And all the ideas that our citizens have in our country it would encourage them to come to market, really. So those are some thoughts there. But that's really what successful entrepreneurship. So here's another product that I worked on with a gentleman, and this is called the Shovolution. And I actually have one of these, a couple of these, and this is the one that I have in the upper left-hand corner here. And what this is it's a little device. It's a handle, and this is a flexible metal strip here in the center. And what you do is you attach it with these hose clamps to the bottom of your snow shovel. And so now what you have is you have two handles for your snow shovel. You've got your regular handle here, and then you've got a secondary handle. And this works fantastic. I tell you, I absolutely love it. I don't shovel snow without this because you can actually stand up more straight. You're not bent over. And so it really takes the stress off of your lower back to do this. And you can see in this other picture here, he's sort of improved his, he doesn't have these hose clamps, at least they're not exposed anymore. But so he has a new plastic device here that he has done this with. And so this is a fantastic product. And I worked with him on this for, oh my goodness, it was probably 10 or 12 years ago. And I looked on his website recently, and he has taken off. This product has taken off. I haven't talked with him in a long time, but it's encouraging to see this taken off. So again, a very simple idea, but a good one, and one that has made it to market. Okay, so this is a sort of questions that I have found myself checking the time here. I found myself asking entrepreneurs time after time, and what are you looking for from the business opportunity? And there are two questions that I think are really important to ask yourself. What are your personal interests and goals in commercializing your product? That's important. What does it mean to you personally to do this? Some people don't really care so much about making money. They had this idea, and they just really desperately want to see it on the market, and so that's fine. I had one gentleman who I'm going to show you here in a minute. He was working with the military, and he had a real heart for military folks that are coming back in the country, maybe have been injured in combat, and doing something for them. He just really had a personal interest and a passion for that. And he developed a product for that, which I'm going to show you in a few minutes. So this is something we want to ask ourselves. And secondly, what are your financial interests and goals? It's important to crystallize that. Do we just want to, boy, if I could, make a few $100 a month, selling product, that would be just really nice to have. That would be a little pocket change that I could go do something with. And that's all I'm interested in. And that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with any of these goals. What the best thing to do is to identify what is your particular goal. If your goal is to support yourself with this new product idea, well, how much does that take? Well, that's going to take, $75,000 a year, or it's going to take $100,000 a year, or whatever. So now at least we've framed what we're looking to accomplish before we even get started. And these are questions that we need to ask ourselves right up front. And it becomes very, very useful, because now I know, okay, I've got to make $75,000 a year. So, and I'm going to be taking out loans and trying to get capital and selling product. And at the end of the day, I know I need to end up with 75,000. And so that gives me a number that I can shoot for. Second question is, what is your role in the commercialization process? Are you going to do the whole thing? Are you going to manufacture the product? Are you going to do marketing and sales and distribution? Or are you going to contract manufacture? Are you willing to let go of the manufacturer and let somebody else do that for you? Or let go of the marketing and let somebody do that marketing for you? These are good questions to ask, because you need to decide, what are you good at? What are you good at, and what do you want to spend your time doing? And what are you willing to let other people do for you? And these are, again, good questions to ask, because it's going to lead you in a particular path in the commercialization process. Or do you want to just sell your idea to somebody else? That's another potential way of doing this. And oftentimes it's the best way of doing it, because other people have resources beyond what we typically have. So these are some questions that are good to ask in the beginning. So this is something that, after doing this for so many years, this is something that I think is very, very useful to do, is what I call an idea capture form. Sit down with a blank sheet of paper and say, what is the new product idea that you have? And what customer need or problem is the idea actually going to address? Who is the competition? In other words, what's the competition for your idea? If your idea didn't come to market, how could we solve this problem? Well, with the Shovolution, the real problem was, back pain, lower back pain. Well, the only way to fix that is to go to the chiropractor. But that is a competitive solution. The solution is fixing the back pain. That's ultimately what the need or problem is. I have back pain when I shovel the snow. But there's more than one way to address that issue. And so we just have to have a clear definition of what that is. Where are the potential markets and customers for your product? Who actually could get a hold of this Shovolution idea or this ab and arm wheel? Who would even want it? When we were talking about the ab and arm wheel, and working with Ken there, we were talking about, obviously individual people would want that, but what about gyms, YMCAs or, Planet Fitness, would they want to have these? We could potentially see a Planet Fitness, having 50 of these in their facility that people could use. So there's different ways, different markets and customers, potential customers for your product, and who would those be? Let's write these down. Let's start to get an idea of what these are. And how would the idea be sold or distributed? Are we going to go through Walmart? That's a whole one process there. Or are we going to sell this on the web? Are we going to sell it business to business? Like with the ab wheel idea, well, I'm just going to sell it to YMCAs, or I'm going to sell it to, Planet Fitness franchises or whatever. How am I going to do that and get an idea of that? And, you can sit down yourself and answer these questions, but it's really great to work with someone else and work with them and get their input also, multiple people. SBDC folks, resources could be a tremendous help in this regard, but putting this together and capturing this in a document is very useful, because it helps to crystallize in your mind where you're heading. Okay, here's the gentleman I was telling you about. This is a product that he conceived of. Folks coming back that may have been injured in war, they may have difficulty even bathing themselves, and it becomes an issue of dignity to have somebody else help you with bathing. But that's what this thing was conceived of. And so his idea was, this little black thing in the top here is a soap reservoir. It's a liquid soap reservoir. And so you would fill this with soap and screw the black top back on. And there's actually a button here. This connects to a shower. This is a shower head here, so it connects to a shower. And this button here, there's an off. In the middle is rinse. And if you push it all the way forward, then soap comes out. And you can pull it back to, and there can be brushes and things on the end here. And so someone, taking a bath can easily switch from soap to rinse, and makes that quite easy. His initial market was obviously with people, but we talked about using this even with dog grooming and how it will, for dog groomers, it will be fantastic because they can easily switch from soap to rinse as they're working with a dog. And we designed this at Penn State. It was not a trivial matter to design this because somehow you have to design the internal workings of that so the soap comes through, and then once you turn it off, then it, very soon or very short, in short order, switches back to rinse, and so there's no soap in the water anymore. And so it had to be, the little tubes and things where things go through had to be laid out correctly, and the pressures and things inside there. And so, but we actually designed it at Penn State, and I got some Penn State faculty involved with helping with that. We built the prototype, and we actually tested it, and it worked. So it was really great. And we looked at marketing that with, as I mentioned, dog groomers, but also for people too. And we were looking at hospitals and nursing homes and various things like that as potential markets for that product. Okay, I want to spend a few minutes here. I know I'm running short on time, so I want to be careful with my time, but I'm going to go through this quickly, and I'd be glad to talk with anyone more about this individually. But how do you protect your idea? There's the patenting process is there. There's trademarks, copyrights, and trade secrets. And there are different types of patents. There are design patents and utility patents and plant patents. And rather than going into that now for the essence of time, utility patents are the useful nature of the invention. Design patents are what it looks like. It's the ornamental nature of the product. And so if it's function you're looking for, you want to go for a utility patent. If it's to be patentable, it has to be unique or unobvious to someone trained in the art. Those are the two criteria for if it's patentable or not. Is it unique? Is your idea unique? And then is it unobvious? And these are what patent lawyers can help us to determine this, answer these questions. There is the U.S. Patent Trademark Office, that's uspto.gov, does have a search facility. Anyone can use that. It's an online search facility, and you can search patents and see what else is out there. This is a useful thing to do because you can see what other people have patented in your particular area that you're working in. And I'm not going to go, there's advanced search things, and there's something called a provisional patent application. And it's a lot more expensive now than $100. It's probably, last I knew, it was probably about $150. But you can file this directly with the USPTO. It only costs $150. And what this does for you is all you have to do is you have to put a description together, identifying the uniqueness of your invention, put together a concept drawing, and send a cover letter to uspto.gov, and you can get a provisional patent application. What that does is it gives you patent pending status for 1 year. And then at the end of a year, you would potentially apply for a utility patent. I mean, they respond within 2 or 3 weeks and telling you have patent pending status. They don't even review your submission because there's no reason for them to review it at that point in time. It's just filed with that date. So on that date, you had the idea, and so you've been granted a provisional patent on the idea. Establishes you as the original inventor on that particular date. You can use patent pending status for a year. And it's intended to provide some level of protection because as you're talking to people, you can tell them, hey, I've got patent pending status. You don't have to tell them that it's only a provisional patent, but you can tell them you have patent pending status. So this is a timeline that I have put together time after time with my entrepreneurs. So this is the file a provisional patent application, and we have a year. Then we apply for a patent, and it's going to take 2 years to get through the legal system. And so then if our patent is filed at the end of those 2 years, this is when we'll actually have patent protection. Up until then, we don't really have patent protection. Other people can manufacture and market our idea, but they can't prevent us from marketing it. That's the value of it. So in discussing your ideas with others, apply for a provisional patent, gather market research. To gather market research, obtain manufacturing costs. These are some of the reasons why you'll need to do that. Use confidential disclosure agreements whenever you can in talking with people. Have them sign confidential disclosure agreements. That's going to protect you also. So I think confidential disclosure agreements and provisional patents are the best way to protect yourself early on in the process here. And I'm going to kind of skip these. Trademarks are another thing that are useful in copyrights, and we can talk about that more another time. But here's another example, and I'm just checking the time here. Here's another example. This is called the ladder companion. And what this is a tool tray which goes on the side of an extension ladder. And so you can put your tools there. And you can move that up and down the extension ladder. And this silver bar here, you can change the angle of it depending on the angle of your ladder so that your tool tray is horizontal. This one I worked on, we actually designed this with some students at Penn State. We actually designed the size and shapes of all these holes here for different tools to go in. And had this, we designed the mold, the plastic mold. This is an injection molded part. So we designed the injection molded part at the university and then had it built. The mold for this was a $30,000 mold, plastic mold. And so if you're going to spend $30,000, you're going to want to make sure you have the market research and market analysis done up front to be sure that indeed there is actually a market for this product before you spend that money. But this is, again, just another example of a product to go to market there. So this, again, is the commercialization process that I talked about earlier. The preliminary market assessment, there's some different things we want to take a look at here. Likely market acceptance, what price point are we going to look for? What's the market size and what product features do we want? Do we have all the product features that we really need in the product? This is all desk research, primarily internet research, talking with competitors, looking at competitors' products. And it could be primary research, direct to the marketplace. There's going to be a preliminary technical assessment, the technical design and manufacturing feasibility. This is something that we're going to have to look at in this. This is the scoping stage, and what are the potential costs and schedule. And then there needs to be a preliminary business and financial assessment. What are the ballpark estimates of product sales, costs, and investments? And can we perform a simple return on investment calculation or a payback calculation? So this is just, again, the preliminary investigation stage. The next stage is really, this is scoping here. At the end of the scoping stage, we want to know, is there really a business opportunity here or not? We don't have to have the exact details, but we want to know, is there a real business opportunity? Are there technical issues that we didn't think of in the beginning? Is there really a market need or not? What are the product costs? Are the product costs way too high or not? So at the end of the scoping stage, do I actually have a business opportunity or not to move forward with? This is the ladder companion, and what we did was we actually went and visited hardware stores. We actually went and talked with the owners of hardware stores, and we said to them, look, we have this product. Do you think your customers would buy this product? And most of them said yes. We thought they would be. And we asked them about this price. $39.99 is the price that we had come up with. How do you feel about this price? And actually, we asked them before we actually came up with this $39.99, but we were in this ballpark, and they helped us to hone in on this $39.99 number. So, we knew that we had to get down to that number with all of our manufacturing costs and everything, and we had to be able to sell it at a profit, obviously, so that we could sell it for this number. If this number was $60 or $75, you can think of it yourself. If you see that for $75 on the shelf, say, well, this is a great idea, but I don't have $75 to pay for this. So it all comes down to, what is the market willing to pay for the product? And so we put together a little questionnaire that we asked them we asked individual people about here. Okay, so we move out of the preliminary investigation into detailed investigation, and now we're actually building a business plan. The questions are pretty much the same, but we want to get more detail, and we want to get better numbers, more research here. What are the exact manufacturing costs going to be? We're going to contact material suppliers and contract manufacturers, and we're going to actually get quotes and things for cost. If we have to buy equipment, so we need to get equipment costs. We want to perform primary market research, surveying customers and users. Do they really have interest? You know, what features and benefits do they want? Purchase intent. You know, sometimes, you know, we can actually get purchase intent. If I'm going to sell this to, what's the store? A hardware store chain like Ace Hardware. Could I get 25 hardware stores telling me that yes, they would buy a dozen products and put it on their shelves to try it? And now I've got a letter from them saying that they intend to purchase the product. This is good information. We want to develop marketing plans and a detailed financial plan. We're going to end up this with an actual business plan now at this point in time. Pricing your product is interesting. I'll go through this real quickly, and there's going to be certain product costs, all of our material costs and if we're contract manufacturing, you know, labor costs and whatever. What are all those costs? We can add them up, and then we have a wholesale margin. Maybe this is 100% wholesale margin on top of that. And then additional margin that represents customer value. And this could be, this is a subjective thing, but it's like, you know, I know that this product is valuable. It's going to help solve this particular problem. I know it's worth this much. And so I might add additional to the price for that customer value there. And then lastly, this is the retail margin. The reason why there's a wholesale margin here is because you've got to pay yourself first. That's the first rule of this whole thing is if you make a product here and you sell it wholesale, you need to make money on that. Before there's even any profit beyond that, we need to be paying ourselves first as entrepreneurs, and this is critical. I know I'm getting short on time here, but let me just go through. Be careful not to underprice your product. You can always come down in price. It's very difficult to go up. So that's another thing. This is, and I'm getting close to the end. I have just a couple slides here. This is another gentleman that I worked with in Pennsylvania, and he had the concept for a hydroelectric turbine. And we actually designed, he actually had an initial design of this, and we actually did some improvement to the design, and we actually built this at the concrete lab at Penn State. This is a clamshell. It has an upper half and has a lower shaft, but inside of it is like a swirl on the inside, and there's a metal pieces which form the turbine, which sort of spin, and there's a little shaft that sticks up in the center here, and that shaft is spinning. And so we can actually generate electricity with this if we can get water to go through this. And so in Pennsylvania, there are mines, coal mines in Pennsylvania, and these coal mines are filled with water. They're like huge underground lakes. And so there are points where water comes out of the coal mines, and I mean, it's coming out of there significant, 50,000 gallons a minute of water, and it's continuous. I mean, sometimes it slows down to 30,000 gallons, and sometimes it speeds up to 90,000 gallons a minute, depending on how much rain we get, because it's all rainwater going down into these mines. Well, there's a stream, and that's this gray thing here. There's a stream basically that's coming out continuously from this mine. And so we looked at putting a penstock, which is basically a pipe. And so we would build basically a bit of a dam here. And so this water would come through these 4 pipes here. And then you can see that they would be then going to these 4 pipes down at the bottom. You have to have a certain downward trend to the slope here, because you have to have pressure and you have to have fluid flow to make this work. But you can see in the picture that there is a we're able to generate electricity with this. And so, the question becomes, where do we place this thing? How can we make money with this? And all of that. But this is another potential product that we worked on back in Pennsylvania. So this is, I think, my last slide. This is just sort of kind of wrapping things up a little bit. At the end of the idea, we want to get an idea, have an idea capture form. At the end of scoping, we want to decide, is there a business potential for this idea or not? At the end of the business planning stage, we want to know, we want to have a business plan. We actually want to have a document that we can put on the desk and say, this is my business plan. And this is something that I can help with, and it's something that the Small Business Development Center can help with putting that together. At the end of the development stage, we want to have actual prototypes. We want to have initial production of product, and we want to have launch plans coming out of this stage of the process. And then the marketing communication stage, we actually want to have marketing materials. We want to have websites and different things. With that ladder companion, we work with ACE and True Value, and another one called Orgo. These are 3 hardware store chains across the country. They have something called truck flyers. And what they are is just a flyer on new products that go out. Whenever they have a truck doing a delivery, they have these truck flyers that go with these trucks to the stores. And so we can pass out these truck flyers at all the stores, and these truck flyers can be set on the counter at the hardware stores. And so we dealt with the headquarters, the True Value headquarters, and we worked with them about developing a truck flyer for that ladder companion. And so ways that this thing can be marketed out to hardware stores. So that's what I have for today. I hope this was useful. What I wanted to do was at least just sort of show some examples, but to give an idea of a process that folks might be able to go through. Obviously, you're going to need help at different points in the process to make it through, but I wanted to give you at least a process or a framework for moving forward with a new product idea that you might have. I'm happy to help with any point in that process, from the experiences that I've had, and connecting with manufacturers here in Kentucky, or marketing resources or legal resources. I've actually written provisional patent applications myself, probably 6 of them. I've written them myself. So I have the background to be able to do that. I can actually write provisional patent applications. I've done market research before, so I can help to develop ideas for how do we go about getting market research. That's something that we can do. How do I manufacture certain things, and what help do I need to get things manufactured? Who are some contract manufacturers that I might be able to work with? Do I need a private consultant to help me with my design? These are all questions that I can help to answer for you. So this is my phone number there. And this is my email address for the business that I have. My business is engineering and academic services. So my daughter, who was helping me set up my Gmail account, she said, "Dad, that's too long a Gmail address." So we came up with an email address, which is a little bit easier. So you can remember that. It's just totaengineering@gmail.com. You can send me an email, call me on the phone or whatever, and I'll be glad to help in whatever way I can. So I hope I haven't gone over too much, David, but I'm willing to take questions at this point.
No, not at all. That was great. So yeah, you really came out with a lot of information there. So, yep. So there's a lot of folks have said thank you, and great information. I do have one question. The provisional patents and just patents in general. I mean, can you patent a business process?
Yeah, you can patent a process. They actually, sometimes people have referred to them as process patents. So you can patent a process, but again, we have to remember the 2 criteria. It has to be unique. Okay, the process has got it. So you have to be able to describe what's unique about the business process that other people aren't doing. And secondly, how is it unobvious? To someone who may be in that business how is your process unique and unobvious to somebody else? Those are the two things you're going to have to come up with. But yes, business processes have been patented before. But patenting is not the only way to protect those things. You may just keep it a trade secret. There may be something in your process that you're doing, and you're going to agree that is a trade secret for you. And you're going to write that down. This is my trade secret process. And you're going to tell all your employees, if you have employees, look at this business process is a trade secret of ours. So do not tell anybody about this process. And so then it becomes a trade secret. And because it's a trade secret, that becomes something which is legally binding in court. If something ever happens, you go to court with someone, you can say, look, this is a trade secret of ours. It's like recipes. We did a lot of work with Hershey Foods back in Pennsylvania. Their recipes for chocolates or whatever, those are trade secret for them. And so that may be a better way to protect a business process.
Yeah. I guess someone mentioned this to me once, that if a patent just does not guarantee protection. I mean, you have to be willing to protect yourself, and you have to pay to have it protected. I mean, you have to pay a lawyer to go after somebody that's infringing upon your rights, correct?
And that's absolutely correct, David. The issue is that patent's going to cost you, $10,000 or $15,000 to get a utility patent. So you first of all have to be willing to pay that money. Secondly, you have to be willing to prosecute if there's an issue. Just because you have a patent doesn't stop people from doing anything. The only way you can stop them is to take them to court, which is going to cost you another $15,000, $20,000. So the question becomes whether to patent something or not becomes: are you willing to pay the upfront costs for that? And then are you willing to pay the prosecution costs for that? And secondly, there are also maintenance fees. They're not that big, I think it's about 5 or 6 years, and then about 10 or 12 years, there's maintenance fees, which are about maybe $1,000 or $1,500 or something like that each time. So you have to pay those maintenance fees too. The patents are good for about 20 years typically, but you do have to pay those maintenance fees. So the question becomes, and that's why it's so important in the beginning to really get a handle for what your sales are going to be and what your profit is going to be. Because if you have a $500,000 business opportunity, $10,000, even $30,000 for patenting costs is a no-brainer. But if you've only got a $100,000 business opportunity, to spend $30,000 for patenting costs and prosecution, now it's not a no-brainer. Do I really need to spend this money or not? That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. So Nina has a follow-on question about, can you patent a service idea?
I would say probably yes. You can certainly write a provisional patent on it, and if it's a service idea, I think so. I mean, service can mean a lot of different things, but if you have a good idea for how to provide service, which again, you got to remember the two things: what is unique and unobvious about it. Yes, I think you can write a patent on that. Yes.
Okay.
But it's got to meet the unique and unobvious test. That's the first step, I would say.
Right.
But people have written patents, gotten patents on a lot of things that you wouldn't think they could. I had a patent, just a real quick story, a lady who had an idea for taking men's suspenders, putting it under the mattress of the upper mattress of your bed, and clipping the suspenders on the bed sheets, and would keep the bed sheets on the bed. And so she said to me, "This is my idea. Mark, should I patent this idea?" So I did a patent search, and there were like 2 or 3 other patents. Idea had already been patented. One person put it straight across the mattress. Okay. Another one did it diagonally on the mattress. And a third one just did it on the corners, on the 4 corners. And each one of those received a patent.
Wow.
So how they convinced the patent office that it was unique and unobvious, I don't know. But it's a bit of a game. It's not black and white, the patenting process, but that's it. And so that's why I say potentially the service idea could be patented. Again, it comes down to you have to defend those first two things, unique and non-obvious.
Yeah.
And then you have to decide, is it worth it for me for that service? What value, what profit am I going to get out of that service? And is it really financially, does it make sense for me to pursue the patenting process?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, thank you so much. This has been super informative, and we've gotten a lot of great comments and thank yous from the folks out there. So thanks for joining today. Feel free to reach out to Mark. He's here to help. He loves this stuff, and I totally encourage you to do so. And if you wouldn't mind, on the chat, there's a little link for a survey. If you have a second, go ahead and fill that out for us. I'd appreciate that. That's good for us to know what you think. So with that, I think we'll sign off. Mark, have a great Wednesday. Thanks for joining us and sharing everything.
Yep, you're welcome, David. And thanks everyone for attending. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you next week on the next Wednesday webinar.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Thank you for joining today's webinar. At the Kentucky SBDC, we know small businesses are the heart of our economy. That's why our goal is to help business owners start, grow, and succeed in Kentucky. Find out more about how our no-cost business coaching, training, and resources can help your business. Visit us at KentuckySBDC.com.